What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rich Talks BS. I'm your host, Rich. Sports news, and we got to start with the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl was something most people did not expect. A lot of people expected it to be a lot closer. No one expected for Mahomes to have the game that he had. Brady had a decent game. It was just more of that defense. That Bucks defense looked incredible, looked amazing, looked entertaining, looked impressive. They just looked good. Period. Um, the way they pressured Mahomes more than 50% of the time. The way they just pretty much shut that team down. No touchdowns, 3 field goals. That's what that Bucks defense held this super high-powered offense of the Chiefs to 9 points. I've been talking about this for a while. I've kept saying Chiefs, Bucks, as maybe a couple times where it was starting to look like it wasn't going to be them two, and I was starting to see something different in other teams, which was the Bills. But still going back to it, we pretty much seen that it was going to be the Chiefs. When the Bucks signed Brady, I saw something coming. I really didn't know and wasn't sure at the moment what was coming, but there was something special about that was about to hit in Tampa, and it did. Even from mid-season through the playoffs, I've been telling you that this Tampa team is great. Brady made this team great. They were already decent last season. When Brady was added to this core to run the show, pretty much, it didn't reach its max, but it hit a pretty high ceiling. So for the game, we had Mahomes. Mahomes, actually passed for 270 yards. Of course, he had the 2 interceptions, 5 rushing attempts for 33 yards. Brady was 21 for 29, 201 yards with the 3 touchdowns. The run game was pretty decent with Kansas City. They still rushed for over 100 yards. They had 107 yards rushing yards. But when they really needed to switch up their game and they started to run the ball a little bit more, that was something they should have stuck with. Even beginning of the second half, they started running the ball. It was starting to show that, hey, maybe this is what they needed to turn the game around. Switch up their game plan, switch up their offense, and they didn't. And they went right back to the same thing that they were doing in the first half, thinking that if they stuck to what they knew, it was going to bring them back, which in actuality, we've seen that didn't happen. And it just kept allowing this Bucks defense to keep doing what they were doing, and that was pounding away at this Chiefs offense. Fournette with 16 rushing attempts, 89 yards and a touchdown. He also had 4 catches for 46 yards for Tampa. They had 145 rushing yards as a team. For the Chiefs, you had Kelce with 10 catches, 133 yards. Hill with 7 catches, 73 yards. And these 2 receivers for Mahomes was, this was their bread and butter. Kelce, Hill. They doubled Tyreek Hill and left Kelce man-to-man with a linebacker. And not just any linebacker, but a fast linebacker. Someone who can actually keep up with him and was making plays. Batting the ball down. Kelce had 10 catches. He still had 133 yards, but there was no touchdowns. Tyreek Hill just looked lost. He didn't look like, how he was looking in the postseason. He didn't look like how he was looking in the regular season. He just looked lost. And he looked lost, and his energy was lost. They were doubling on him. They were, they didn't, you know, they were putting pressure on Mahomes, sending 4 and dropping the rest. They had the 2 high safeties. They were not letting anything getting past them on defense, and it showed. Gronk had 6 catches for 67 yards, 2 touchdowns. Antonio Brown had 5 catches for a touchdown. They had 3 sacks as a team. This defense had 3 sacks, 2 interceptions. And it was just crazy how they controlled the game. This defense controlled the game and left it in Brady's hands to score when it mattered. This makes Brady's 34th career playoff win, which is the most in NFL history. He's the first player to win in 3 decades. The first player in NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB to win championships for two different teams after turning 40. Like, Brady is 43 and does not look 43, And this conversation has been talked about all weekend. It's been talked about since the Super Bowl, comparing Brady to LeBron, how they're not playing their age and they don't feel like their age. It's like they're ageless. They're just getting better and better year after year, and they're getting older and they're getting better. And that's kind of scary because Brady wants to play till he's 45, which he could actually win his 8th Super Bowl. The Bucs scored 30 or more points in each of the 4 games in postseason in the same season. And it's crazy how they were just putting up this many points. I mean, it's crazy, but it's not crazy because it's Brady. And I've talked about this before, Brady making Brady decisions. Bruce letting Brady taking over, the coaching pretty much. And all he can do is just sit back and watch it unfold. Brady was making more decisions. They're coming back from that bye week. He's making decisions. He's, coaching the players. He's telling them what to do. He's telling them where they need to be at. He's a true general leading his troops. And that's what he did. He led them to the Super Bowl, led them to a Super Bowl win. And he just made this team a team like it's never been before. And Brady's also got 83 career passing touchdowns in playoffs, which of course that's an NFL record. It's going to be hard to beat this record before retiring. I mean, he's been doing it 20 years. He's 43. Looks like he's going to play 2 more years and just keep adding on to his records. And he's starting to make his records look like they're about to be impossible to beat, to reach, to beat, everything. Going back to Brady and, wanting to make decisions, Deshaun Watson wanted the same thing in Houston, which didn't happen after they hired the GM and hired the head coach. And Watson had no input on it. Which it kind of shows the level of respect in quarterbacks between Brady and Deshaun Watson, which is crazy. Because I'm pretty sure if Mahomes wants a decision, wants to, be a part of personnel decisions, I'm pretty sure they're gonna be quick to say yes. And even going back to Mahomes, the way he looked in the game, he looked lost. He looked like he was trying not to cry. This was the first time, in his NFL career that he's been beat this bad. He's never lost by more than a possession, than by single digits, by a possession. And he's just never had a game like this ever in his NFL career. Now, going back to college years, that's a different thing. College is different. You're going to meet up with different teams that's built different, and especially your own team. To come from college into the NFL, the way, the type of gameplay that you're coming from and creating and being a part of and learning, is crazy how it advanced him to the top to be, if not the best quarterback in the league right now, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, winning MVP, Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl, reaching the Super Bowl twice, and reaching it back to back. It's just this game. He looked lost at times, and he actually made some good plays. He actually made some pretty good plays. It was just on the receiver end, whether, it hit him in the face, hit him in the hands, and they were dropping passes, dropping touchdowns. That's pretty much what it came down to with this Chiefs team. The defense wasn't bad, but they weren't good enough to stop Brady. Also with the Chiefs missing 2 offensive linemen, 2 tackles, that's going to be talked about for a little while, but not long. But this game will be talked about as in Mahomes, the way he played. So moving on from that though, that was a good game, possibly a repeat next year. I know Brady and the Bucs are trying to run it back, and it's going to be very interesting and entertaining in the NFL next season to see how that actually goes. Not only, was Deshaun Watson, wanted to be part of the personnel decisions, but Russell Wilson has also come out and saying that he wants the same in Seattle. He's made the statement, I want to be involved. At the end of the day, it's your legacy, your team's legacy. It helps to be involved more. That dialogue should happen more often. And I agree, because the quarterback is the captain of your team. The quarterback is your leader of your team. You want him to be comfortable around certain people. You want him, to ask questions, whether it's a GM that's being, interviewed, or a head coach that's being interviewed, offensive coordinator that's being interviewed. You want your quarterback in that interview to fill out the other person. You want them to ask questions to see if they're going to answer it the way they like it, to see if they like their theories, their way of playing, or way of decision making. You want that in your organization. And it goes right back to the level of respect between Watson and Brady. I mean, Brady, when he went to Tampa, went out and brought Gronk back. Gronk was actually waiting on him too. He went out and got Antonio Brown, moved him into his house, made him part of his family, made him feel like a winner, and to, get his mind right. He even went out and, brought in Leonard Fournette. So, and all 3 just happened to have a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Brady had his decision in that. He's having more decisions in the locker room, on the practice field, in the game. And that's what Russell Wilson wants. That's what Deshaun Watson wants. I'm pretty sure that's what a lot of these, elite quarterbacks want, is, a little bit more interaction and involvement in that type of personnel. So now, going into the trade talks, the Raiders actually have been reported today, on this day, that they're receiving trade calls from Mariota. Mariota played in Week 15 when Derek Carr went down, and he played great. Watching that game was like Mariota being reborn in a way, because he looked good. He was starting to look like Oregon Mariota. He came in, looked good, ran the ball well, passed the ball well, made good decisions. And that was pretty much like his clip, or his interview, to be looked at as a starting quarterback once again. Richard Sherman, he wants to play 2 more seasons. He pretty much is not going to be in San Fran anymore. It's just a matter of who's going to actually pick him up when he's already made it known that no matter what, he's only going to play 2 more seasons and then he's moving on. It'll be interesting to see what defense actually picks him up. I mean, I know he's going to be a great fit. He's going to be a great addition to whatever team he goes to, but it's a matter of if he's going to be a great fit. So we'll see how that turns out. We'll see where he ends up. 18 quarterbacks are going to be on the move this offseason. I've heard that Adam Schefter, mentioned something about the over and under on the 18 quarterbacks that's going to be on different teams this season, this next coming up season. And he's going with over, which means it's going to be more than 18 quarterbacks. But he's saying that because I really believe that he believes that Dak is not going to be a Cowboy next season. With all that's going on with Dak, that's another thing, with wanting to sign him long term. He wants the money. He wants to get paid. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. He can get you that ring. He is great. He's a great quarterback. He's a great leader. And I just don't see why we don't want to sign him long term. They're waiting for a certain thing to happen, and I don't get what it is, and I don't understand what it is. But coming up in the next couple weeks, we're gonna find out, and it's just gonna be very interesting to see what happens with that. The Bears, the 49ers, the Panthers, the Patriots, the Colts, the Jags, the Jets, the Saints, Broncos, and the Washington football team are all looking to either trade their quarterback, replace their quarterback, or fill their quarterback spot. And with the Bears and the Colts, they've been, in talks for Carson Wentz. That's going to be a trade that's coming up this week. Next couple of days, next few days, Carson Wentz is going to be traded this week. Especially because they don't want to pay him that $10 million that they're going to owe coming up in like a couple weeks or so. So, especially if they're going to trade him, and that trade is going to happen soon. I've heard a couple of things, like with the Bears, wanting to trade for Carson Wentz, and they're going to give up, Nick Foles, I think like a couple of first round draft picks and something else. But it's going to be interesting to see who's going to give up what. And is Carson Wentz worth a first round draft pick? I mean, he's had his years where he was just crazy good, and then he just kind of just fell off. His confidence level was down, his morale was down, his decision making was not as good as it used to be. And it's just a matter of, is he broken and can he be fixed? Or does he just need a different atmosphere and different environment to succeed? So it's going to be interesting where he goes, where he lands, what they give up for him, what team he's going to, and what they give up for him. Garoppolo could return back to New England, which would be very interesting, and I think that's what should happen. Garoppolo should go back to New England. He knows that system. He played very well when he was a backup for Brady, and he came in when Brady got hurt. And like I said, he knows the system. So, having Belichick again, I think they'll be great, especially having players coming back from those that opted out. Garoppolo back in New England will be a good thing. Kirk Cousins have been connected in trade talks with the 49ers and Matt Ryan. Is Matt Ryan on the move? Because Falcons have the fourth pick in the draft, and they have to pick up a quarterback. Matt Ryan is done. He might have a couple more years, maybe three, but he's got a couple more years left. But it's not with this Falcons team. He doesn't fit in with this team anymore. So a lot of people are expecting Zach Wilson. I'm expecting Zach Wilson. I've been talking about that for a while, and it's gonna happen. Matt Ryan is not gonna be a Falcon next season, and it's gonna be interesting to see where he goes. And he actually could end up in Indianapolis. They've lost their quarterback. Philip Rivers retired, and they need someone to lead this team. Matt Ryan would actually be good to lead this team. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see, what happens in the next couple of weeks, what quarterbacks are going where, who's trading what. And this offseason is just going to be what is called, a quarterback carousel, because that's pretty much the focal point in this offseason. And going into college basketball, I haven't talked about college basketball yet, but it's also coming. It's about to be March Madness. We got a few more weeks, and these, top 25 is changing every week. Teams are, it's either win streak and then lose, or lose and then they have a win streak. At one point, there was 3 teams that was undefeated left in the country, and that was Gonzaga, Baylor, and Drake. Drake just lost over the weekend. Baylor had 2 games canceled. I think they have 3 more games canceled or postponed. Gonzaga is just running all over their conference. Their conference is not that strong, so it's kind of not surprising. But I mean, they're the best team in the country, number 1 team in the country, 17-0. They actually have a few teams that are legit good, but Gonzaga just tops them. Well, I'm sorry, 18-0 Gonzaga, and you got, like, in the top 5, for this week is Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, Ohio State, and Villanova. And those teams are really good. They've been on a roll. Michigan has been really good. They have the offense that's good. Their defense has been up and up. And it's just going to be a very interesting March Madness, especially since there wasn't one last season, of course, because of the pandemic. So, they're going to have the tournament in Indianapolis. It's going to be a bubble. They're going to play in different arenas around Indianapolis, and bringing, the Final Four and the national title into the main, the main arena. So it's going to be very interesting. And we're actually going to be able to see, draft prospects actually excel and show what they can really do in the season. We've got, there's one player in particular, who's leading the way for Player of the Year, and that's Luka Garza out of Iowa. To be doing what he's doing, preseason, he was already, expected to win this award. There's a few more players out there that's doing pretty good also. It's just, they're kind of creeping up on Garza, but it's going to be interesting to see how each player, that's in the race and that's in the talks for National Player of the Year, to see how they're actually going to end their season. Garza's almost averaging 26 points, 9 rebounds, a little bit under 2 assists, and shooting 59% from the field. We also have Jared Butler from Baylor, junior guard, who's averaging like 17 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and he's shooting 49% from the field. He's really good. He's really helping this Baylor team be this Baylor team. Like I said, undefeated, dominating the Big 12, kind of, and mostly dominating the Big 12. They've been dominating their opponents, and they're showing that they are a different team than years past. And they've been rebuilding, and they've been building up for the past couple seasons, and it's starting to show off. Starting to pay off, and it's starting to show. And so going to the number 1 team, Gonzaga, they got a few players on there that can be and are in the talks for National Player of the Year. But the one that I see that sticks out a little bit more is Jalen Suggs. Actually watching a few highlights in actual game, Jalen Suggs is pretty good. He's a little bit underrated. Being a freshman, he's not going to be looked upon to, be that top leader for this team yet, especially because, they have other players, juniors, seniors that's been leading this team, that's been dominating with this team, that's been working with this team, that looks good, and they're, doing their thing. Villanova has a few players the same way, and it's going to be fun to watch these conference tournaments, conference championships, to see who's going to make it, the first 4 in, first 4 out, and to actually watch a March Madness again. and it feels like it's been a long time since there's been a March Madness, and it just felt funny and felt different last year to not see it. So I'm ready to fill out my bracket, and I'm ready to watch games all day. So very ready to enjoy that. Going into the baseball news, Trevor Bauer joins the Dodgers. Bauer was a free agent. For more than a year, the only starter tasked with regularly working on only 3 days of rest. Bauer, like I said, was a free agent. The Mets were after him also, but just couldn't land him. The Dodgers have money. The Dodgers have a team. They're coming off this World Series win, and they look more appealing than the Mets. This past season's NL Cy Young winner, and he's just about to make money. He's got a 3-year deal for 102 mil, and he's expecting to make 40 mil in 21, 45 in 22, and with those 2 years, there's also options for opt-outs on those 2 years. So, Bauer joining this Dodgers team is going to be great. He's going to help with the bullpen, and he's just, I kind of expect him to win another Cy Young this year. Maybe possibly a World Series. So we'll see how that works out. Ozuna returns to the Braves, and he's got a 4-year deal for 64 mil. The Rays and the Pirates have just been on the move this season, making trades. The Rays have 6, Pirates have 9, and they're building. They were already good last season. The Rays, making it to the World Series, just not being able to finish. They're, building upon that, upgrading from that, and they should be good. They're going to look good this coming up season. The Pirates are going to look good this coming up season also. Carlos Correa agrees to a 1-year deal for 11.7 mil with the Astros. Jonathan Schutt resigns with the Tigers on a 1-year deal. And the Angels are in a very interesting situation right now. And that's with the players wise. Every player the Angels acquired this offseason so far will be free agents in 9 months. 7 players, like Fowler, Quintana, and Kurt Suzuki, and it's going to be interesting where, this leads going into the off season. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out on the regular season and possibly postseason, to see how these players that are going to be free agents after this season, to see, if they're going to be fit enough to be re-signed, sign extensions, or move on to another organization. You never know. These 7 players might even be used as pawns for, different trades before the trade deadline. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the Angels are doing and what plans they have with these 7 players. Now, sticking with the Angels, they've suspended their pitching coach, Mickey Callaway, after 5 women accused Callaway of lewd behavior. He's denied any wrongdoing. MLB and the Rangers are hoping to wrap up this investigation soon. The 5 women worked in sports media and were accusing Callaway of inappropriate behavior that included sending shirtless photos, requesting nude pics, and thrusting his crotch in a reporter's face while she attempted an interview. This happened, over a 5-year span with 3 organizations, where he was the pitching coach for the Indians and he was the manager for the Mets. So it's going to be very interesting to see where that goes, even 5 years, even over the last 5 years. This has been coming up and going on longer than that, of women coming out and actually, building up that confidence to come out and say when they've been wronged by these, public figures. So I mean, you did what you did. If you didn't, you didn't. But if you did, you did it. And you knew that this was a possibility of going this route, which it shouldn't have been done in the first place. But at the same time, you knew this was coming. Going into the NBA, Derrick Rose traded, reuniting with Thibodeau. The trade was Dennis Smith Jr. and the second round pick for Derrick Rose. So Derrick Rose back with the Knicks, and it's not really going to do much. I mean, Rose and Tibbs, they got history together. 3 different teams now, and it's just going to be interesting to see how Derrick Rose being added to the Knicks is actually going to help or hinder this team. And I mean, Derrick Rose has been playing good. He looks good. Just waiting to see, a MVP type Rose in the regular season or, just coming up period. Power rankings came out. Lakers are back at number 1 after being number 3. So you got the Lakers, Jazz, Sixers, Clippers, Bucks as your top 5. Nets, Nuggets, Suns, Spurs, Celtics round out the top 10. Over the weekend, during the Nets game, KD was pulled from the game. He didn't start the game on this past Friday night. He didn't start the game. So he came off the bench. And then in the third quarter, he was pulled from the game. It was due to health and safety protocols. It was, contact tracing. He interacted with someone who had an inconclusive test result before the game, which I still don't see how he even was able to sit on the bench. If this was the case, he should have not been at the game, period. Just because of the risk of, okay, this, someone who he's been in close contact with has been tested. So I'm going to be safe and be like, hey, wait for these tests to come back and then we'll see what's the next steps. But that didn't happen. And the test, came back negative 3 times in 24 hours, including the 2 negative PCR tests on Friday. But for some reason, they were inconclusive and then, ended up coming back positive. So he was out for the rest of that game. He was out a couple of games, could be out a few games. He's not going to travel. He was helping with the Nets rally back to take the lead and then exited the game. And then they lost the lead and lost the game eventually. But, 0 positive tests on NBA players, and this big risk came, to the light. The tests were inconclusive and he already wasn't going to start because of the test. And then you pull him from the game, So what happened if you pulled him from the game, he got tested, and then all of a sudden he tested positive. Now everyone else who he was in close contact with on the court and on the sideline are going to be at risk. So it was a very interesting decision on the Nets' part and on Steve Nash's part to allow KD to play. Moving on, LeBron passed Wilt Chamberlain for 3rd in all time in field goals made. He was sitting at 12,691 at that time, and he also recorded his 96th career triple-double. MVP race, we got to talk about the MVP race already. Players are playing at MVP levels. Everyone is trying to make a statement, that they're the best player in the league. So you got LeBron James, you got Joel Embiid, you got Jokic, Durant, and Kawhi as your top 5, in your top 5 for the MVP race so far. Embiid, of course, has been playing great, averaging a double-double. Jokic the same way. Joker's been averaging a double-double. And these two, have been on a roll and helping their team tremendously, with moving forward, staying at the top, towards the top. You know, they're both playing for the best teams in each conference. And it's going to be interesting to see how they keep taking them, where they're going to take them, where they're going to end up, and how this season is going to turn out. Halfway point is coming up, and we're going to see what happens. Well, that's all the videos I have for this episode. Until next time.